Would I be the a-hole if I refused to babysit my ex-wife's child in an emergency? I, 30 male, have a child with my ex-wife, 30 female. We married young, had our child young, and then she cheated on me with her current husband. After the divorce, she had a child with her husband. I have never had any kind of relationship or presence in this child's life. I communicate with my ex-wife through an app called Our Family Wizard, and we see each other very infrequently. I keep things civil when I do see her or her husband for the sake of my child, but I do not pretend to be friends, and I have no respect for either of them. My ex-wife's husband was recently diagnosed with cancer. She told me this in person at a school event for our child. While telling me, she admitted they no longer had a support network and were concerned about what would happen in an emergency with their child. She asked if I would be willing to babysit in an emergency situation, since our child would be dropped off to me in the event of one anyway. I told her I would not and would appreciate it if she didn't ask me again. But ask me again she did, before I could leave. She told me I didn't understand the lack of support they have and how their child should be protected the same as ours. She said I surely wouldn't say no in an actual emergency. I told her to have something else in place for an emergency and not to rely on me, because I do not want to be left caring for her child with the man she cheated on me with. I told her she needed to let it go before our child picked up on any tension. She texted me afterward and said I needed to reconsider because they had no other options. I replied that my answer was still no, and to please use the app only going forward. My attorney said it was the right move because it's documented in case she ever tries to drop her child off with me. He has filed it away in case we ever need it in the future. This isn't about the legal aspect, though. I wonder if my refusal would make me an a-hole in an actual emergency, when according to her, nobody would babysit their child. My ex-wife is clearly very stressed, so maybe I'm not showing the compassion I should. I find it hard to have any for them after everything they did. But the child wasn't a part of it, and my lack of concern for the child might be a-hole worthy, especially in an emergency situation. Would I be the a-hole? Now for the top comments. They need to speak to the social worker at the hospital where he is receiving treatment to see what services might be available to them. That's something I might keep in mind to suggest if she brings it up in person again. If she brings it up in person, I'd suggest replying through the family app. To make it clear the answer is no. Suggest talking to a social worker via the app as well. That way it's documented that you've declined and shows there's alternate options she can explore that don't involve you. Not the a-hole. You owe her and her child with her husband nothing. They have no support system because they are a-holes. Tell her you will keep your child for as long as needed. That's how you can help them. I told her that which she didn't like very much. She said it didn't take care of her other child, which I ignored. Not the a-hole. She needs to find another option that does not include the unrelated ex-husband that she cheated on. As a doctor, I can attest that the world is full of people who bring their child with them to the hospital or ER if they have no other choice, and also when they do have another choice. If things are that bad, if the child's father is being admitted and about to die, the ER can usually find a social worker to help them figure it out. As a matter of fact, if he has cancer, he should have a caseworker. That person may have access to resources. The county where I live has an emergency nursery just for people like this, not the a-hole. Or you call the ambulance and meet them there later, after you've figured out the child care situation. My husband had to go to the hospital after being very sick for 4 days and was in very bad shape. He finally told me to call the ambulance about an hour before our 7-year-old woke up for school. He told me to stay with her, get her to school, and then come to the hospital after. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to promise my future salary to my autistic brother because my parents feel I owe the family after a childhood of neglect? I was born a year and 9 months after my brother. He's now 19 and I'm 18. My mom always told me, he has no one but you and me. At 8 years old, my older brother was diagnosed with autism. My mom and dad tried to deny it for a while, taking him to doctor after doctor with the same result: autism. My dad didn't take it well. He started saying how God had cursed his family. My dad's not even that religious, and kept complaining. Because of that, I had the misfortune of being the healthy one. My mom didn't pay much attention to me. I remember times I would be sad and she'd say, "Oh, how do you think your brother feels?" And it keeps going to this day. Then for my unfortunate luck, I got a new brother when I was 7, just more pain for me. That one had epilepsy. One night my mom was changing his diapers and he had an epileptic seizure. It was 3 a.m. My mom and dad ran out of the house so fast and I remember being confused. I stayed up for a long time. At 10 a.m., my older cousin arrived to take me and my older brother to my grandparents' house. My baby brother needed to stay for 12 days in the hospital for treatment or whatever. During this time, my dad and mom and my aunt took my 2 brothers to the zoo and the amusement park and took them to a restaurant, then to my older brother's appointment. When I asked if they brought me anything, they said, "No, your brother deserves it more." Now, 10 years later, I'm being told that if I get a job, I need to give a part of my future salary to my older brother. When I said it's not my job and I want to be a writer and live in a foreign country, my mom started guilt-tripping me, saying, "It's selfish. Your brother deserves to be a part of your family." Now I feel like the most selfish person ever. I'm not saying I hate my mom or my brother. I know people went through more than I went through, but I just need to talk about it and wanted to talk to strangers, real people. Not the a-hole. Why do you need to give your future salary to your brother when your family hasn't given you the respect you need to tithe your salary in return? I believe it may be best for you to cut them off if you don't need anything from them. I think the parents are trying to set up OP to become financially responsible for her sibling so they can duck. Not the a-hole. I have autism too, though my parents didn't know that until I was 11. I have a sister who is 13 months older than me. She doesn't have autism. I noticed my parents were neglecting her. Unfortunately, that was when I was 15. The moment I noticed, I told my parents they were being unfair. Besides, doesn't your brother have a job? On the scale of normal to classic autism, extreme, I fall closer to classic autism and I can work for at least 28 hours a week. You are not your brother's keeper. Your parents wanted kids. It's their problem, not yours. I also have ASD, and I am not my siblings' keeper, nor are they mine. As I am level 1, I have accepted that the responsibility for self-care is on me, and that if I work hard, I'll probably be all right. Same, I just take it slow and steady. I also make sure to call my parents out if I ever catch them favoring me or my little sister, who has light autism, over my older sister. But that hasn't happened in years. Your brother will be part of your family, but that doesn't mean your parents get to tell you to sacrifice your life and the lives of future children for him. Just nod, go uh-huh, and leave the issue of saying no for when you have that job and no longer live with them. Next story. Am I the a-hole because I won't keep my issues with dad away from his 9-year-old stepdaughter? My mom unalived herself when I 17 was 6. It was just me and dad for years after, and he wasn't a good parent. I couldn't go to him if I had a problem, and he didn't make time for me. Mostly it was babysitters who took care of me and friends' parents if they were willing to let me hang out at their house after school. I tried talking to him and I asked for his time or attention, but he never gave it. And I gave up asking. 3 years ago, he started dating a single mom with a son, now 15, and a daughter, now 9. Her son lived mostly with his dad, so my dad wasn't super involved in his life. But her daughter was with her full-time, and my dad stepped up to be this super involved dad. He takes her for ice cream, helps her with her hair, plays pretend with her, helps her with homework, and all kinds of stuff. They even have specific daddy-daughter activities they do together. When she got really sick last year, he stayed with her in the hospital all 3 days. Her mom was the one who left and went home at night. Him staying with her at the hospital is when I was done. It was the sign that he had grown as a parent, but didn't give a damn about his real kid. I stopped hoping we could figure our relationship out later and started planning to have nothing to do with him ever again. A few months ago, the girl started asking to spend time with me. She wanted me to play with her or do her hair, and she asked if she could come to the store with me. I'd say no and keep doing what I was doing. She didn't give up, though, and I didn't give in. A few times she called me her sister, and I corrected her and moved on. My dad decided to ask me for her because he thought I'd say yes. He said she wanted to have a princess tea party, and he thought I should play with her. I told him to go F himself, and he was like, "What's with the hostility?" I told him he didn't get to play Dad of the Year to someone else's kid and ask me for stuff. His wife was like, "Save the conversation for later," and Dad walked away. But he brought it up several other times, and I always pointed out he wasn't a good dad to me, so why would I be a sister to the kid he decided to play dad to? Every time, his wife got annoyed that her daughter was there and could hear. My dad said he wanted to figure out a way to bring us, me and his stepdaughter, together. So what if we did family therapy and tried to figure things out? That pissed me off even more. I said, so he'd do therapy with me for someone else's kid, but not for me so he could be a dad to me? I asked him why he thought that would make me pretend I'm that girl's sister. I said he just made me want to leave more and more. He said he was trying, and any attempt should be respected. I told him if he has to try for her and not me, then he can go join my mom or stay the heck away from me. His wife lost her mind and told me my issues with Dad are not her daughter's fault, and I need to stop fighting about them when she's there. I told her to control her husband then and get him to leave me alone, and her daughter doesn't need to hear any of it. I heard her complain about me for like an hour after she lost it, and then she complained to Dad about him not letting it go. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He should probably stop bringing it up when she can hear you then. That's on your dad. He must think that OP will respond differently if she knows the little girl is within earshot. The first time that OP gave him a blunt rejection and paid no mind to who could and couldn't overhear it, he should have realized that tactic is going to fail every time. The fact that he keeps trying to do the same thing that has already failed spectacularly suggests that he's really not interested in anything but getting his own way. He's certainly not interested in learning from his mistakes, any of his mistakes, starting with atoning for the way he ignored his own daughter during her formative years. Stepmom is right about one thing. It truly is not the kid's fault your dad is a POS to you. Stepmom is also wrong about one thing. It is not your fault your dad keeps picking fights with you in front of her kid. Your feelings are 100% justified. He didn't care about you. It's clear that he still doesn't, as he offered therapy for you and the stepdaughter, instead of you and him. Maybe he realized he was a bad father and he tries not to make the same mistake again with the other girl, but that is basically like twisting the knife in your back. You deserve better. Tell your father to leave you alone. Tell him how much he hurt you and that he cannot fix it anymore. Your relationship with him will never be the same, and he cannot force his relationship with his stepdaughter on you either. Also, prepare to leave once you are 18. Save up money, ask grandparents if you can move in with them, or try to secure a scholarship at some college far away. It's not worth your mental health to deal with him and his new family. I don't have relatives. My best friend's parents are going to let me move in with them once I'm 18, so that's my plan. They've done more for me than he has, so it felt like a good idea to accept. Last story. Am I the a-hole for destroying my relationship with my daughter and ending my marriage? I, 41 male, have been with my wife, 41 female, for 24 years. We have 3 kids, 2 of whom are adults, 21 female and 18 male. My marriage has been a bit rocky for a few years. I have been racked with anxiety, stress, and fear, which I have let affect me and our marriage. A few weeks ago, my daughter came to me and told me that through work with her therapist, she has determined that trauma she experienced during her childhood caused by me is responsible for her failed relationships and bad behavior. I shut it down. I told her all her good qualities should be her focus. This worsened our relationship, as she said I wasn't listening and continued to double down on me taking accountability. I told her I certainly made mistakes, and a lot of them, but I did my best. The rift significantly worsened when she told me that wasn't good enough and that I didn't do my best, along with other comments that I took as disrespectful and hurtful, such as, "You only have an emotional connection if it benefits you." I then began to seek guidance. I spoke about the situation with multiple family members and friends, as well as my therapist. 9 out of 10, including my mother and brother, told me she was being disrespectful and that she needs to experience life and gain perspective. I tried multiple olive branches to smooth it over to no avail. Finally, after trying and her refusing to speak to me, I told her my name is on the deed, and implied that if she wouldn't talk to me, then she could get out. This had devastating consequences. My wife immediately told me if I kicked her out, she would divorce me. Several horrible arguments erupted, culminating in my daughter calling the cops on me, trying to have me removed from my home. It didn't work because I was not physical or violent. I recorded the whole fight, and while I am not innocent, my wife and daughter said some things that really hurt me. I thought, this is it. There is no coming back. My anger towards my daughter for the entire situation came to a head from her calling the cops, and I told her, "Don't talk to me like I'm your father. You are no daughter of mine." I regretted it instantly. All in one moment, I saw all of the hurt and pain this caused her. I can't stop seeing her crying because of me. I feel like my support system led me down the wrong path. Now my daughter wants nothing to do with me. My wife says divorce is non-negotiable, and I feel lost, confused, broken, and angry. My mother-in-law talked to me and helped me see the forest through the trees. But it's done, and I screwed everything up. Diving deeper, that anxiety, stress, and fear have made me insufferable and difficult, and my wife has had enough. I want to save my family. I love my wife and daughter. I'm an idiot. However, my mom and brother say I did and am doing the right thing. It sure doesn't feel like it. Am I the a-hole? I feel like my support system led me down the wrong path. I beg you the finest pardon? You are shameless and have zero accountability. Just audacity. You're the biggest a-hole. Exactly. OP, my father was pretty emotionally abusive when I was a child. It caused lasting trauma. We have an amazing relationship now and are closer than my mom and I, because he's taken accountability for his screw-ups, has apologized, and changed his behavior. He helps more with my kids than any other grandparent and is allowed to be alone with them, which would have been inconceivable a decade ago. This was refreshing to read. On Reddit, you don't often hear the stories with happier endings like yours. Some people actually do accept accountability and improve themselves as a result. 9 out of 10 people said you are right. Was the one who said you were wrong the therapist? The best saying I ever heard about confronting parents about childhood trauma is, "Of course you don't remember X trauma thing, because it was damaging to me and just a Wednesday to you." I like to say it as, the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. Am I the a-hole for pointing out to my ex that this is what she wanted? My ex and I divorced 8 years ago, amicably. She is the one who proposed that we not make the kids switch back and forth for the time being. We'd each spend 2 weeks at the house and switch on and off. She said we'd do this until one of us moved on and got remarried, as obviously that wouldn't be a realistic setup. I agreed, and we put it in writing, including that this custody arrangement would only last until one of us got married. We also split rent on an apartment that the other lived in during their off time. All bills have been split evenly between us. Per the agreement, when this ended, we'd sell the house and split the profits, as it's in both our names. Our kids were 6 and 8 when this began. They're now 14 and 16. I have been with my now fiancé for 3 years. We started living together at her place 2 years ago. My ex also started living with her boyfriend, so we gave up the apartment and would still switch off living in the house during our custody time. While our partners didn't live at the main house full-time, they have gotten to know our kids, and everyone gets along. The kids love my fiancé and are excited for the wedding. My ex was happy for us until I spoke to her about putting the house on the market. Suddenly, she got weirded out and said she didn't want to change the arrangement. It was easier for her, and it's nice to have a break from her boyfriend every 2 weeks. I said I get that, but my fiancé and I are getting a new place that's both of ours. The kids are okay with this, and are fine with having to switch houses at this point. I offered my ex the option to buy me out, but she can't afford to do that. She kept saying this isn't fair and that she didn't expect I'd ever move on. I asked what if she married her boyfriend. She said she has no plans of remarrying, and thought I wouldn't want to either. I just said, well, I am. We've started the process of selling the house, and she keeps trying to get the kids against the idea, but the kids honestly don't care. They've loved house hunting with me and my fiancé. My eldest wants to help my fiancé decorate, as they're close. The The kids are also excited to spend more time with my ex's boyfriend since they'll be living with him and their mom. He's a very nice guy, and they like him. Recently, we got an offer on the house, and my ex was very emotional, which I understood. This was a home we purchased together and raised our children in. I'm emotional to let it go as well, but when we were discussing it, she told me this is all my fault, that she had to sell her children's childhood home. I told her that she's the one who came up with this idea 8 years ago, and she's the one who put in the clause that we'd get rid of the house when one of us remarried. It's not my fault that she had some unspoken, unrealistic expectation. This set her off even more, and she started sobbing, telling me I'm a jerk for throwing this back in her face. So, am I the a-hole for pointing this out? We've amicably co-parented for 8 years, and I'd hate to see that end over something like this. Edit. To those saying she's still in love with you, I honestly doubt it. I think it's more that she has commitment issues, thus why we didn't work out. She didn't cheat, but found marriage suffocating. I don't think there's anything wrong with the guy either. I know he wants to get married. She evidently doesn't. I suspect she's starting to itch for that again. But I've told her to just move out of his place if she doesn't want to live with him and move on. Now for the top comments. Obviously not the a-hole. She set the rules, just doesn't like that they are being enforced now. Her problem is not yours to fix. It sounds like she just doesn't want to live with her boyfriend and his mom. She's not living with her boyfriend's mom, just her boyfriend. But I agree the problem is that she is probably being asked more questions about committing to her boyfriend, which I don't think she wants to do. She likes the existing situation. It gives her everything she wants and she knows she's never likely to be able to get it again. She gets to move out from her boyfriend every 2 weeks. For someone with a commitment issue who finds living with someone else suffocating, it's perfect. The problem is, she's not likely to be able to find a similar situation. But the situation was either going to end now or when the kids aged out. Once the kids were in college or whatever, the house would be sold. There's no way you were going to leave the house there for her to move in and out of every 2 weeks without the kids. So at most, this advanced by a few years, the date by when she would have to fish or cut bait. There's nothing to feel bad about here. She's in the same situation as millions of other adults now. They dealt with it or not. She will or not. Not the a-hole. I don't know why so many people are saying she's probably still hung up on you. In my humble opinion, it seems like she doesn't want to give up the home you guys raised your children in, which is understandable. But it's wild for her to take it out on you, given that it was her idea and that she never expressed a desire to discuss changing this arrangement until it was too late, after she had 8 years to bring it up. For the sake of your co-parenting relationship, maybe talk to her about how you understand that this is hard for her. Sometimes a little understanding is all people need, but you simply can't share responsibility for that home with her anymore. Also, maybe for Christmas you can help your kids get her a gift that memorializes the house, like a custom snow globe, a photo album, a painting, or something made out of an architectural detail from the home. I still have a decoratively carved plank of wood that was left over from remodeling on my grandparents' house. That is very sentimental to me, even though my grandma sold the house over 15 years ago. It hangs on my wall. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not willing to take care of my husband with a flu after he refused any care towards me and said I exaggerated my cough when I was sick? I, 35 female, just got over a very, very bad flu. I had body aches, a bronchitis cough, sneezing, fever, etc. The whole time I was sick. My husband, 36 male, had little to no sympathy for me. Not even a single tea was made for me. He still asked me what I was making for dinner and always had this dirty look on his face because the chores weren't getting done. Aside from the housework, I am also the breadwinner of the house with my full-time job. He works 2 or 3 days a week, only for about 3 hours each day, just some context to keep in mind. Anyway, he went on to tell me he felt I was exaggerating my cough when I was sick. He had never heard what bronchitis sounded like, and he accused me of making it more dramatic. He would also get annoyed when I sneezed and told me that maybe trying not to cough would help me. Fast forward a week later to today, he woke up with a sore throat. It hasn't progressed yet, but now he has body aches too. I feel really bad because this flu strain sucks, but at the same time, I don't feel as bad as I probably should. I'm more or less letting him be, instead of offering ways to keep him comfortable while he's sick. I feel extremely resentful after how he treated me when I was sick, and I feel bad about that too. But am I the a-hole? Why are you still married to this man-child? No real job, ignores you when you are ill. What does he bring to the table? Not a damn thing if chores aren't being done. The sex is never good enough to put up with someone this useless. Not the a-hole, but you're both the breadwinner and doing the chores and doing the cooking? And he's a jerk to you about all of that while you're sick? You're the a-hole to yourself for being with this man. Wake up and stop accepting this as a partnership, because it not only hurts you, but it tells society that men like this are acceptable. He clearly doesn't care about you. Lol, get on his butt for yard work and stuff that needs doing or whatever, and call him an over-exaggerating baby, and see how he likes it. If the thought of doing the above makes you feel afraid, please take some time and think about that. Not the a-hole. Even if he didn't actively take care of you, demanding you continue on as if you were fine is a whole different animal, and shows laziness on his part that he couldn't even figure out meals for himself and your family. I mean, I'd actively leave personally. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to divorce my husband even if he's changed? I, 26 female, and my husband, 26 male, have been married for 6 years and together for 8. We have 2 children. One is 4 and the other will be 2 in February. He is my first kiss, boyfriend, everything. In the early years of our relationship, he cheated on me multiple times. I didn't want to stay, but I felt pressured to due to the living circumstances I was in. I can elaborate in the comments if you're curious. The cheating was back in 2019. I didn't find out about the worst parts until a few months after we were already married. I know I should have left, but I was young and dumb, and at the time, I didn't trust the only other person I could go to because of the circumstances I mentioned above. As far as I know, he has not cheated on me since. I set some boundaries for him to follow, and he did. Things like no phone in the bathroom, no social media, etc., until I felt comfortable again. He respected those boundaries for years. Earlier this year, we talked, and I told him I now feel comfortable enough for him to have social media, and I don't care about the phone in the bathroom anymore. The issue is, we still fight, not physically, but we get into heated arguments over everything. He can be very controlling. He practically shames me over the clothes I wear. He says it's because mothers shouldn't dress like that. I can promise everyone reading this that I do not dress inappropriately at all. If I could show you some of the clothes he thinks are inappropriate, it would be laughable. For me, it's just suffocating. We don't agree on a lot of big topics, and he doesn't respect my body. I don't like being over-sexualized, yet he constantly gropes me or stares at my breasts. It's not that I'm totally against it. I'd just rather have more romantic forms of intimacy, like hugging, calling me beautiful, etc. And he does that sometimes, but not as much as he sexualizes me. He makes me feel more like a blow-up doll than a person. I've gotten to the point where I can't tell if he genuinely wants me to sit with him on the couch to watch a movie, or if he's just saying that to get his way with me. I've tried and tried to get him to understand what I'm saying, but he doesn't truly listen. He says he'll do better, then goes right back to the same things. He also gets upset, pouts, or tries to guilt-trip me if I want to skip a night of sex. To be completely honest, I regret staying with him. There are tons of people getting engaged on my feed, and it's heartbreaking to me. Because back when we were engaged, he made multiple Snapchat accounts trying to contact his ex. She sent me screenshots, and when I asked him, he told me she was lying. Because of my predicament, I chose to let it go. A few months later, when we were married and I found out other things he had done, I asked him why he was so desperate to get a hold of her. His response was that he felt he had made a mistake breaking up with her and getting with me, but he swears he doesn't feel that way now. Now when I see people getting engaged, I'm envious because I want someone to want me, and I want to not question it. I want the love I've never had. But is it too late? Am I the a-hole if I were to divorce him now? Now that we have children, and considering he did respect my boundaries for years? He also isn't cheating anymore, and as for the conflicts and arguments we have, with him being overly controlling, etc., he tells me he's sorry and that he'll change. I just don't know if I want to keep trying to make it work anymore. But he tells me I would be selfish to divorce him, especially because we have kids. And he makes promises that things will get better, which makes me wonder, what if I divorce him and we could have ended up fixing things if I had stayed? My feelings are telling me to divorce, but I don't know if that's a mistake. I saw a video recently that said if someone pisses in your water, adding sugar doesn't remove the piss. No matter how much sugar your husband is adding, you've still got a glass of piss water, not the a-hole. Yes, I know exactly what video you're talking about. Honestly, OP, you should have left as soon as he cheated the first time while dating. But then you forgave and stayed, okay. But when he told you he made a mistake breaking up with the ex and getting with you, could he have made it any clearer? But he swears he doesn't feel that way now. He's using the kids as a manipulation tactic. And also, why would you actually have children with this man? How do you know he's not cheating now? What exactly did he do before you got married that qualified as cheating? Just trying to get a hold of the ex, or actually physically cheating on you with multiple women? I had no one to go to, no family, no money. I lived with him and was unsure how to leave. If I could go back now, I would definitely have left. And because he stopped cheating and promised me change, I was willing to hope for the future. I thought maybe we could be happy. I know now that's not a possibility. Even if he's not cheating, we just don't go well together. Whatever your relationship is with your husband is what your children will emulate. What would you tell or want your children to do if they were you? You know you need to divorce. Don't stay because of the sunk cost fallacy. When you get on the wrong train, get off and turn back as soon as you can. The longer you stay on, the more expensive the return journey. I have a goal to try to divorce by at least February. I am a stay-at-home mom, so I have to make a plan first. He is totally against me leaving him, so there's no talking to him about this. I have tried, but he makes me feel guilty about it. I start to question if I'm doing this for the right reasons. At the end of the day, I just want to be happy, and I don't want my kids to have unhappy parents. This makes sense to me, but this relationship is so hot and cold that it can distort my thoughts that I know to be true. One minute I know for a fact I want to divorce, the next he's being kind, and suddenly I'm not so sure. That's why this is all so confusing and complicated to me. I just need to hear that I'm making the right decision, as I feel so lost right now. This is a huge step I'm about to take. I'm about to flip our world upside down, and I feel guilty. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to leave early to the airport for our first international flight? Me, 31 female, and my husband, 32 male, are going on our first trip to Japan for our honeymoon and first-year wedding anniversary. Our flight is in less than 2 days, and we are in disagreement about how early we should arrive at the airport. Our flight departs from LAX at 11:30 a.m., and I want to be at the airport by 7:30 a.m., 4 hours before departure. He wants to be at the airport by 9:30 a.m., 2 hours before departure. For context, he has never flown internationally and is afraid of flying, so his anxiety is very high right now. He claims he doesn't want to end up waiting at the airport extra time before the flight because the anticipation will make his anxiety worse. I, on the other hand, am anxious that if we don't allow ourselves extra time for things to go wrong and for possible traffic delays, we live 1.5 hours away from LAX. We could end up missing our flight. For further context, I have planned this entire trip myself with very little input from him, by his choice, because he has been anxious just thinking about flying for 12 hours on a plane. I researched, purchased the tickets, booked hotels and excursions, prepared the itinerary, and arranged for our ride to and from the airport. I am adamant about arriving 4 hours early due to the stormy weather forecast, government shutdown chaos, possible traffic delays as we approach the Los Angeles area, and also to allow time to eat breakfast and relax before the flight. He says I am selfish, an a-hole, and that I don't care about his anxiety for possibly making him wait at the airport for a longer time before the flight. Am I the a-hole? No a-holes here. It's recommended you get to the airport about 3 hours before an international flight. I'd compromise and do that instead. Edit. I missed that OP is flying out in the next couple of days, so the 4 hours makes more sense in context. Since TSA is still recovering from the government shutdown, my judgment is still no a-holes here, but 4 hours makes more sense. Not with LAX. With LAX, you go in as early as you can go, because even that way, you'll end up running to make it, and your flight will leave late on schedule. I'm not a frequent flyer, but I flew in and out of LAX earlier this year. Worst TSA screening process. Still had to take off shoes, take out liquids, even had to take food out of my bag. Took forever, and that was before the shutdown. Can you stay at an airport hotel the night before your flight so you are very close to the airport? Don't have to worry about traffic and he can chill in the calm room a bit later in the morning? I live in San Diego County. This is what my friends do. Many of the hotels offer discounts for parking and will shuttle you to the airport. It takes so much stress off. Final update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to contribute to my stepson's college fund? Original post. My wife Emily, 38 female, and I, 39 male, have been married for 12 years. Emily has a son, James, 17, from a previous relationship with Dan. Em left Dan when she caught him cheating with a co-worker. They shared 50-50 custody of James. I met Em about a year after she had left Dan. A year later, Dan married his affair partner, and Em and I got married soon after. James never really bonded with me. I admit that I tried a little too hard initially to get him to like me, but I backed off when I realized I was trying too hard, and it was having the opposite effect. Over the years, we've built a tense acceptance of sorts, if that makes sense. Em and I have 3 kids together, 10 female, 7 and 4 male. James doesn't have a good relationship with them either. He bonds well with Dan's sons, but doesn't like spending much time with our kids. He isn't mean to them, but mostly just ignores them. The eldest 2 now just avoid him when he is home. Em and I both have well-paying jobs, and early on, we decided that I would contribute 80% to our trio's college fund, and Em would do 20%, since she would contribute 100% to James's college fund. We didn't know if Dan was making any such arrangements on his end, but we thought that at least this way James would have something instead of nothing. Em recently sat him down to talk to him about his college fund. He seemed happy with the financial help he was going to get. He went off to dance for the weekend, and when he came back, he asked Em about our kids' college funds. When he learned that the amount was fairly higher than his, he was upset. When he asked about the disparity, Em told him about our college fund setup. He was furious to know that I hadn't contributed to his college fund. He said that I was just pretending to play family with him all these years, that I really didn't care about him, and that I was a heartless a-hole. Em suggested that we could take some money out of our youngest's fund and give it to James, and that she would add it back over time. But she said that it's my call, that she won't pressure me either way, and would accept whatever I decided. Quite frankly, I don't want to do it. James idolizes his awful father, even now that he knows he cheated on his mother. I could deal with his crappy behavior toward me, but I never understood his attitude toward our kids. We even tried going to family therapy, but he refused to go because I wasn't his family. Now when he needs money, suddenly I am family? I know I am perhaps being petty, but I don't want to give him the money. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. He has 2 parents to contribute to college. They can find him. Sounds like Dan had better step up. I doubt that would happen. Dan has never been good at keeping a steady income flow, and his wife is a stay-at-home mom. They aren't desperately struggling to make ends meet, but I could make an educated guess to say Dan has probably not saved up for any of his kids' college funds. Not your fault, nor your problem. James's parents had the responsibility, not the stepdad. Boundaries are important here. Not the a-hole, but why in the world did your wife tell him about your other kids' college funds? It's simply none of his business, and giving him the details was just going to upset him. He was perfectly fine with the arrangement before he knew the younger kids are getting more than him. Your wife is the a-hole for opening up a conversation about money with her 17-year-old son, and even more of the a-hole for suggesting you take money out of the other kids' funds to make James happy. I don't blame him for getting upset, but your wife needs to contribute more to his fund if she wants to make him happy. From what I understand, it started as a normal conversation. He was curious to know about the when, how, and why of the college fund, and then snowballed into him angrily ranting at his mother. In retrospect, she shouldn't have, but I don't think Em at all thought this was going to be the reaction. Edit/mini update. I think some clarifications are in order. 1. I don't hate that James idolizes his father. I hate that he blames his mother for their family breaking up. When James was 13, he heard from one of his older cousins, on Dan's side, what his father had done that led to Emily leaving. When he confronted her about it, she explained, "We tried for therapy then, but it didn't happen. I'll explain later." Last year, he told his mother that he believes she was responsible, that instead of leaving Dan, she should have forgiven him and stayed. Em was understandably shocked, but when she asked him if the situation was reversed and she had cheated on Dan and he left her, would Dan then be blamed for the family breaking up? James said no, that would definitely be her fault, and made no further explanations. This was not the result of an argument or a heat-of-the-moment statement. Ironically, this was a casual dinner table conversation, and the other kids had to be excused from the table. 2. When Em and I had gotten together and things were starting to look serious, she wanted to take James to a child therapist who could help him adjust better to the changing situation around him. Since they shared 50-50 custody, Dan's consent was needed, but he refused. When we were going to get married, we tried for therapy again. Dan said he got married before us, and James had no issues, so we were overreacting and James didn't need therapy. We tried again after the incident mentioned above, when Em was pregnant with our daughter, and most recently after last year's incident. This time we asked James directly. We thought that if he agreed to family therapy, we could speak to our lawyer and work around a custody arrangement, since he was almost an adult. This was when he refused therapy, saying I wasn't family. 3. For those saying that I am treating a teenager like an adult, that I made him feel like the other and not one of us, we tried. When we both started earning well, we wanted to splurge on our kids during birthdays and holidays. James was never excluded. Whatever our kids got, he got too. In fact, because he was older, he got to pick what he wanted. For his 11th birthday, he wanted to go to Disney World. Both of Dan's kids were invited. His youngest son and my daughter are the same age. He went, but she wasn't invited, so we stayed home. 4. We started the college funds about a year after our daughter was born. Em couldn't start one for James earlier since she was a stay-at-home mom when she was with Dan. It took her a while to get back on her feet, and she wasn't in a position to immediately start a college fund for him. A lot of you pointed out that he has been shortchanged, and you're right. Em will rectify that and make up the deficit he should get by the time he starts college. But that will still not make it as much as the remaining 3. We have decided to sit and have a chat with him this weekend about everything. Now for the first update. It's been an eye-opening weekend. Thanks to everyone who weighed in, even the aggressive ones. I knew what I was signing up for posting on Reddit. Before the update, a couple of clarifications, because gaps in info turned into wild assumptions. When I said I came on a little too strong with James when we met, some of you pictured me grabbing a toddler by the neck and hissing, "Call me daddy." No, I was nervous and acted like an idiot, using an over-the-top baby voice because I'd barely been around toddlers. Emily later said I sounded like a circus clown on 2 cartons of Red Bull. Cringe? Absolutely. Malicious? No. Many had questions regarding therapy. I shared the timeline in this comment thread, so I'm not going to rewrite that again. Many called my wife the a-hole for sharing the college fund amounts for our kids. I showed her the post. She explained that James came back from dance with questions about when the fund started, how much was in it, etc. He said, paraphrasing, "So mine is XXX and theirs is YYY, with his XXX higher than our kids' YYY. Without thinking, yes, stupidly, Emily corrected him. No, yours is AAA and theirs is BBB. That snowballed into what I wrote earlier. It wasn't a diabolical plan to make me pay more. It was a thoughtless correction. With that out of the way, Emily, James, and I sat down for a conversation yesterday. James didn't want to talk to me, but I told him that if he expected me to even think about contributing to his college fund, then I had a lot of questions he needed to answer. It was an extremely long conversation, and many revelations came to light. So, here's a summary of the things we finally found out from James. Even before Emily and Dan had broken up, not divorced, they were never married, Dan had occasionally brought James to his affair partner's place, so James was familiar with the affair partner. After the breakup, Dan immediately moved in with his affair partner. Em, who was a stay-at-home mom until then, struggled initially to get back on her feet. Needless to say, James's home life with Em was a little more chaotic than at Dan and his affair partners. Em hadn't told James that she had left his father because he cheated on her. Telling that to a toddler wouldn't make sense. But apparently in the early days, Dan used to tell James that Em would eventually come back to him. I think he may have been holding out hope for reuniting with Em. And that's where I came in. Dan told James that as long as I was around, I would not let Em go back to Dan. When Dan married his affair partner, he told James that it was temporary, just a way to make Em jealous. When we got married, he told James that it was my way of making it even more difficult for Em to get back to their family. When James later found out from his cousin, Dan's side, that his father had cheated on his mother, he asked Em about it. She was open and honest about everything. When James confronted Dan, Dan told him that Em had left him for a long time, and his loneliness made him miss her so much that he found some comfort with the affair partner. Emily's father had been in a car accident, and she was at her parents' house for about 3 weeks to help them. And apparently, that was all the alone time Dan could handle before he cheated. But this was a reasonable enough explanation for James to absolve his father of all sins. When Em got pregnant with our daughter, Dan told James that now that I had started pumping my spawn into his mother, exact words James used, his family was destroyed forever. Dan told James that the therapy we wanted him to go to was actually a ruse, that we were going to take him to a doctor who would declare him a problem child, and then ship him off to boarding school so we could play happy family without him. Only Dan and his family, according to him, were fighting to keep James with them. James admitted that he had hoped his detached behavior around my family and his happy, joyous behavior around Dan's family would convince Em that my kids and I were evil and she would eventually leave us. But sadly, his words, I kept knocking up his mom, making it harder for her to leave. Expectedly, Emily was beyond distraught to hear everything. To be honest, in the moment, I couldn't wrap my head around it much either. I asked if Dan had a college fund saved up for him and his sons. James said affair partner's parents have set up a trust fund for Dan's sons, but that does not include James since he isn't their grandson. Dan hasn't saved anything for any of his kids. I asked James why he suddenly thinks I should contribute to his fund when he has turned down every opportunity for us to be a family. He said he was actually okay with the amount that Em initially told him about, but Dan made him realize that we were undercutting him, so he came back to demand more. I asked him, if I pay the money, will that make us family? Even if he can't accept me as a step-parent, can we at least be friends? Could he be a little friendlier with my kids when he is around? He straight up said no. He said that after all these years, he knows neither I nor my kids are the evil beings his father made us out to be. But he still feels I am the reason his parents could never get back together, and for that, he will always hate me. And since my kids are my kids, he's never going to like them either. Now that he knows Emily isn't going to leave her family, James said his plan is to cut off contact with all of us once he goes to college. He does plan to eventually get back in touch with his mother when he feels ready to forgive her for breaking up his family, but he can't do that right now. Emily and I have had a long and honest discussion. I have decided that I will not be making any contributions to James's college fund. Emily will continue the contribution she was already making and hand it over to him once he turns 18. We will no longer be pursuing family therapy with James. We will not try to change James's mind about going no contact with us after he goes off to college. We've done all we could. We're going to stop now. If James is happy with Dan's family, then we're happy for him. It's going to be hard for Emily, but even she has accepted that after James' recent revelations, she's having a hard time reconciling her little boy with this cynical teenager. We have both taken individual and couples therapy before, mainly due to the stress and anxiety James's behavior used to put on us as a family. We are looking into starting again. Hopefully, we'll be able to overcome this in time. Man, this is so sad and infuriating. I don't envy you. Dan is a piece of turd. I'm sorry James can't see the light, and I hope in the future he's able to grow and see who has actually loved him. James is piece of turd too. Sorry, but he wants graciously forgive his mom for breaking family when it was his own father who was knocking a coworker. There is trauma and there is trait being a C-word, and James is one. What a twisted little turd. Yes, his dad has manipulated him, but he consciously recognizes everything that's gone on and still behaves this way? Sorry you and Emily have to deal with the ungrateful turd. His dad has villainized them both in his eyes, to a point even the truth is not enough. He's 17, not 5. He acknowledged they're not the people his dad has painted them as, but he doesn't care. Second update. I've been getting so many messages and comments that I haven't been able to reply to them all. Emily and I are deeply grateful for all the kind words we have received, and even the unkind ones have been insightful in their own way. A lot of you asked how we did not know that Dan was brainwashing James against us. It's not that we didn't know. We knew that some level of parental alienation was happening, hence why we repeatedly advocated for therapy, but we didn't know to what extent. Like I said in a comment before, whenever we tried to talk to James, he would either throw a tantrum or simply sit like a stone and not say a word. Since therapy was denied repeatedly, we really couldn't do much. The fact that Dan had filled James's head with this kind of BS, we really didn't know. Last year, when James spewed his judgment on how Em was to blame for their family breaking up, was when we had our first inclination of how much James had been poisoned against us. As for suing Dan for parental alienation, at this point, it doesn't matter. James will turn 18 early next year, and we have no proof of anything. We did not record the conversation we had with him, and James is not a reliable witness. He would easily lie to protect his father. Now, coming to the recent developments. After everything that James said, Emily was very shocked and devastated. For all those who said she should have told James that Dan was the problem, not us, and so many other things, the reality was that she said nothing because she couldn't. Real life isn't like some scene from a movie or series where characters have replies ready at the tip of their tongue. When your son spews this level of hate towards you, it's hard to comprehend and respond with zingers. That said, we have had time to think things over, and we have considered a lot of the advice that we got from here. Emily has decided that while she will continue to add to James's fund until he turns 18, she will not be handing over the money to him. As per the advice given by many, she will be paying directly to the institution that James gets admission into. If he chooses not to go to college, then the money will be held back and given to him when he turns 25. In the hopefully very unlikely case of Emily passing before James turns 25, then our lawyer will be in charge of ensuring that James gets the money at the allotted time. This is to ensure that neither James nor Dan can blame me for meddling with the money. Since our last conversation, James has not come home. He stayed at a friend's place for a few days, then went back to his father's place. Emily asked him to come over on Saturday. She sat him down and told him that since he is hell-bent on giving up his relationship with us, there was no point walking on eggshells around him any longer. She told him that she was hurt and disappointed by his behavior. For him to believe that his mother was to be blamed for their family breaking up was unacceptable. Em said that if he feels his father cheating is acceptable and that she should have gone back to him, then she cannot see eye to eye with him. This is not word for word of the conversation. I am mostly paraphrasing. She told him that I will not be making any contributions to his fund. Since he doesn't think of me as family, I have no obligations to add to his funds. And if he still feels that his fund is lacking, then he should ask Dan to make up for the deficit. She also told him that he will not be getting direct access to his funds and that payments from the fund will be made directly to whatever college he attends. He was also made aware of what happens if he doesn't go to college. Emily also let him know that from now on, if he wishes not to come over to our place, he doesn't have to. We discussed it with our lawyer. While Emily will not be giving up custody yet, she will not be enforcing that James stay with her as per the custody arrangements. He silently listened to everything Em said. He didn't leave his room that night and went back to Dan's place on Sunday. We haven't heard anything from him since then. I'm sure dear old dad is going to flip out when he realizes he's not getting the funds. Until the kid is 25, why would they tell him they are giving him the money then? Why would they even give it to him? It should either go directly to the college or nothing. Because people do a lot of growing up between 18 and 25, and there are valid choices besides college. I don't have high hopes for the kid, but I understand as a parent wanting to leave the door open. This isn't the end. Keep strong. I am sorry that your stepson is a jerk and that Dan is a toxic POS. I'm waiting for Dan to start screaming at Emily about the fact that his son isn't getting the money the moment James turns 18. Dan was absolutely waiting for that money, and he's going to be furious when he finds out that Emily's doing the smart thing. And James eats it up like his dad can do no wrong. I really hope that reality smacks him in the face hard. Now for the final update. I still keep getting messages for an update, so here it is. But this is the last one. For about 2 weeks after Emily's last conversation with James, when he was told that I would not be making any contribution to his fund and that Emily would be paying directly to any college, university, or trade school that James decided to go to but not hand the money to him, and that if he chose not to attend college, he would still get the money, but only after he turns 25. There was complete radio silence from him. He stayed with Dan, and Emily did not insist that he come over to our place as per the custody arrangement. Then suddenly, James called Em, saying that he had gotten admission into a college and needed his entire college fund to book his admission. It's been a while since Em and I graduated, but we know enough to know that's not how it works. The application process starts around this time of year, and deadlines are usually until February or March. No college asks for full payment up front. At most, a small deposit is required to hold a spot after an official acceptance letter is issued. Em said she would be more than happy to hand over the entire fund, but not to him. She would make the payment to the college directly. James said the college had no such option. At this point, the conversation was so comically ridiculous, I don't even know what to say. It's like he thought we were brainless idiots. He wouldn't tell us the name of this not at all imaginary college. He wouldn't show us the acceptance letter he supposedly received. He just wanted us to hand over the money. When Emily refused, he started to get agitated and raised his voice, so Em disconnected the call. Not even an hour later, Dan called. This was surprising for us. In the past 12 years, it was always us who would reach out to Dan. Mostly Emily, but on rare occasions, I have too, usually begging him to consent to therapy, which he consistently denied. Dan accused us of emotionally abusing James and causing him mental distress. He claimed that by denying James access to his college fund, we were sabotaging his future and causing him emotional harm. Emily calmly explained that the money in question is her personal savings, intended for James, yes, but not legally or morally owed to him. It could just as easily serve as her retirement fund. There's absolutely no legal basis to claim that money belongs to James. Things got nasty after that, and Dan called Em and me names, so obviously Em hung up. On a positive note, because we were so surprised that Dan had called, we recorded the call. Things went back to radio silence again, until this Monday. Dan's cousin Julie, mother of the boy who had told James that it was his dad who had cheated on Em, has always been on good terms with Em. She's a really sweet lady. Her twins and my daughter are great friends. She believes Dan is a POS, and James is the only reason she barely maintains a civil relationship with him. She came by and informed us that Dan's wife, the affair partner, is divorcing him. Apparently he cheated on her too. What a surprise. She separated from him months ago and is living with her parents with her sons. Meanwhile, Dan's parents have been asking family members to lend him money for a new business, but unsurprisingly, no one has pitched in. We now believe his sudden demand for James's college fund may have been tied to that. Emily has tried calling and texting James since then, but he hasn't answered or responded. While our situation isn't resolved yet, this will be my final update. Emily and I are deeply grateful for all the genuine support, empathy, and thoughtful advice we've received. Unfortunately, there have also been some vile and malicious comments and DMs from people hiding behind anonymity to say the worst things possible about me and Emily, and they continue to do this even though I have ignored them and not risen to the bait. We don't need that kind of negative energy in our lives right now. Whatever happens next, we'll face it privately, together, as a family. Thank you again to everyone who's been kind and truly helpful. I would not be giving that kid any money at all after this fiasco. Wonder if he blames the affair partner for his dad cheating on her like he does Emily. James and Dan are two peas in a pod. They deserve each other, and you and Emily should just enjoy your life without the two of them darkening your doorstep. I'm wondering what the timing is between James finding out his dad cheated on his mom and James finding out his dad cheated on his stepmom. Shrugs. If I remember correctly, James knew for a while that Dan cheated. Hell, Dan was bringing James to meet his soon-to-be ex during the cheating. But James is a narcissistic POS just like his dad, and everything is mom's fault. Wouldn't put it past him to blame the soon-to-be ex for his dad cheating. I know you're taking things offline, but just wanted to add something. I work at a university, and no, colleges don't require 4-year payments up front, and not even 1-year payments up front. Most recommend doing the FAFSA now for 26 to 27, and payment plans start usually in July for the fall term. If paying in full for what financial aid doesn't cover, usually the due dates are 1 to 2 weeks before school starts. Sometimes 1 month prior. Depends on the college. But again, that's for 1 term and you still have to register for classes. Most admit fees are also waivable if you call and sweet talk someone in admissions. Good luck with everything. This is really helpful. Thank you. Although I don't think, considering the present circumstances, that James will be going to college or trade school. But nevertheless, it's good to have this information handy. Last story. Am I the a-hole if I keep seeing my nephew after my brother found out he's not biologically his? My 23 female brother, 30 male, is going through a very nasty divorce at the moment with my sister-in-law, 30 female. They'd been together since they were 18 and had my nephew at 19. He's 11 now. My brother and sister-in-law started fighting, and it basically turns out my brother did a DNA test on my nephew, and he isn't his. I have no clue who the father is, and I'm not sure if my brother or sister-in-law do. They are divorcing, but my brother is trying to get out of all his responsibilities and doing everything he can to avoid paying support, the latter of which I understand, but the fact that he's so quick, after 11 years of raising and loving that boy, to just throw him away like an unwanted dog, really makes my blood boil. You don't raise a kid for 11 years and not care enough to stick around, and the fact that he isn't tells me he's not cut out to be a father. I would 100% side with my brother if my nephew were an infant or even a toddler. But he's not. He's 11, and all he's going to see is his dad completely disappearing on him. What makes it worse is that our dad left when I was 2, and it crushed my brother, according to our mother. And the fact that he's willing to do the same really upsets me. My nephew is blameless in this. Please don't mistake this for me justifying what my sister-in-law did. I couldn't wish the worst for her any more than I already do. What she did and has done for the past decade is despicable and inexcusable, but I don't think this makes my brother a blameless victim, as he's willing to straight up abandon his son because no matter what the test said, after all this time, he is his son and he is his dad. I have been in contact with my sister-in-law, as has my mother. She knows what we think of her, but she's being very fair given the circumstances. I love that boy so much, and she's agreed to let me and my mom continue a relationship with him. This set my brother off, saying we were siding with her after what she did to him, which he knows we're not. And I get he's hurt, upset, and grieving, but that doesn't mean my nephew should have his life turned upside down. Still, he's adamant that my mother and I are wrong and that we should back him 100%. Am I the a-hole? That child is the ultimate victim in this scenario. He will need all the love and support he can get. Stand by him. You're a decent human. I couldn't agree more. Every case of paternity fraud has 3 victims, and the child is the biggest victim in every case. No a-holes here except the sister-in-law. Your brother is also a victim here. I feel bad for the guy. Precisely. I wish people wouldn't vilify him for having the emotional self-awareness to realize he couldn't raise his ex's affair child. The only a-hole here is the ex for lying about her affair and her baby's parentage, and baby-trapping him. From what I've seen on Reddit, people have next to no sympathy for men who have been lied to for years about the paternity of their child. Apparently, they need to get over it and just look after the kid, whether it's theirs or not. As a woman, I'm never going to know what that feels like. Since obviously I gave birth to my children, I know they're mine. I cannot even imagine what it's like to be told your child isn't yours. Men aren't allowed to have feelings, despite people doing the whole men need to talk thing. A lot of people can't seem to understand that it's incredibly painful and a constant reminder for some by keeping contact. I've heard stories where some men do this, but they do come back. I reckon they just need to sort themselves out. I do agree that love just doesn't disappear. I'm sure underneath the anger, the brother just wants his boy back. It's unfair to judge him when it's not his fault he was put into this situation. Most of us don't know how we would react to this. The poor kid is definitely the worst victim in this. I think I'd grow up hating my mother forever if this were me. I get OP, but I sort of get where the brother is coming from too. I'd say no a-holes here except the horrible sister-in-law.